A first light of dawn seeps over the horizon, spilling golden streaks across the slow-moving Nile. You stir from your straw mat, feeling the rough weave of linen unbrush against your skin. The night's cool air lingers for just a moment before the heat begins to hum beneath the sky of promise that the day ahead will not be kind. A rooster crows somewhere beyond the mud brick wall, and a donkey answers with a lazy bray. You sigh. Another morning in Kennet, the land of black soil and endless work. Outside, the world glows faintly pink reeds shimmer beside the riverbank, and a fisherman's boat drifts silently through mist. You stretch your arms, still aching from yesterday's plowing, and smile at the faint sound of your wife grinding grain for bread. She hums a tune you've heard 1,000 times, one older than any pharaoh. The scent of baking barley drifts through the hut, earthy and comforting, pulling you from the last traces of sleep. You step outside barefoot, toes sinking into cool dust, and glance toward the fields beyond. They shimmer faintly with dew, waiting for your calloused hands. Somewhere, a base flaps its wings, an omen of luck, or maybe just a bird looking for breakfast. Scholars still argue whether the people of your time truly believed the gods watched every step or if it was just habit. But you don't question it. Out here, it's better to stay on the gods' good side. You mutter a soft prayer to Ra, shielding your eyes as the sun's disk begins its rise. Its reflection dances on the Nile like liquid fire, and for a brief moment you forget the weight of your work. You are just another soul in this ancient rhythm wake. Toil, eat, sleep, repeat. But even in this cycle, there's beauty, the river that never fails, the golden light on clay walls, the quiet hum of life beginning again. So, you think with a small smile, you probably wouldn't survive this. Between the heat, the insects, and the endless chores, anyone from the future might give up before breakfast. Still, there's peace in this simplicity, a kind of calm the busy centuries ahead will forget. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me where you're listening from, and what time it is there, now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step carefully down the narrow path toward the river, a wooden bucket swinging from your hand. The air still holds a chill, carrying the sweet, muddy scent of wet earth and papyrus. Around you, the world stirs, frogs croak, cranes rise lazily from the reeds, and distant voices call across the water. The Nile gleams like polished bronze beneath the growing light. This river isn't just water, it's life itself. Without it, every field would turn to dust. Every village would crumble into silence. You kneel at the bank, dipping your hands into the cool current. The water glides around your fingers, leaving trails of silt and sunlight. You splash your face, gasping softly at the shock. It wakes you better than any prayer. The frogs scatter, offended, and you smile. The little ones think they own this river. Behind you, your son's laughter breaks the calm as he tries to catch a fish with his bare hands again. You shake your head, pretending not to see, though you know he'll come home soaked and scolded later. You used to do the same at his age, diving after slippery silver flashes between the reeds. Life repeats generation after generation. Like the flow of the Nile, a neighbor trudges by, carrying a net heavy with yesterday's catch. Morning, he calls, his voice thick with sleep. Morning, you reply, though you both know you'll trade the same fish later at the market. The pattern never changes, but there's comfort in that. Stability is survival here. As you rise, droplets glint on your forearms, catching the sun's first real heat. You glance downstream where two young women fill clay jars, chatting about a temple festival in the next village. The talk or celebration feels almost strange amid such routine. But the gods demand joy to, that's what the priests say. Scholars still argue whether these morning rituals were spiritual or just habit. But to you, the act of washing in the Nile is both a quiet cleansing of body and mind. You stand straighter afterward, refreshed, a little more human under the blazing sun that's soon to come. A dragonfly lands on the rim of your bucket, its wings flashing blue and gold. You watch it for a moment, letting the breeze play across your face. The moment is small, fleeting, and yet, this is peace. The kind of peace only people who live with the river can understand. You turn back toward your hut, the water sloshing softly at your side. Behind you, the Nile keeps whispering its eternal song, ancient, patient and unbothered by all the centuries that will follow. By the time you return, the sun is climbing higher, spilling gold across the mud brick walls of your village. The morning hum has begun, the clatter of wooden tools, the lowing of cattle, the rhythmic thud of pestles grinding grain. Smoke rises from small fires, carrying the warm, yeasty scent of baking bread. Your wife, already at work, kneads dough in a clay bowl. Her arms move in steady circles, dusted with flour, her linen and rest clinging to the early heat. You set the bucket near her feet and grin. She doesn't look up but mutters, "Took you long enough." You both know she's teasing, she always does. Breakfast isn't a feast, but it fills your stomach. Coarse bread, a small onion, maybe a fig or two if you're lucky. The bread is dense, baked from emmer wheat, and full of tiny sand grains that crunch between your teeth. You swallow hard, ignoring the grit. Everyone in Egypt has worn their teeth down early because of it. It's the taste of daily life, half food, half earth. You chew slowly, watching your son chase a chicken across the yard. He trips, lands in the dust, and laughs so loudly that even the neighbors grin. You shake your head, torn between pride and mild despair. Children have endless energy, and you know he'll need every drop of it when he grows up to work the fields beside you. The village elder passes by, leaning on a cane carved from palm wood. His voice rasps like dried papyrus as he warns, "Flood's coming early this year. Mark the fields soon." You nod, respectful. A flood is the heartbeat of the land, both blessing and curse. Without it, nothing grows. With too much, homes vanish overnight. You never argue with the Nile. When you finish eating, you rinse your hands and pack a small bag of bronze sickle, a flint knife, and a scrap of linen and to wipe sweat. You tie it around your waist and look out over the horizon, where the flat green fields shimmer in the distance. It's time to work. You step into the sunlight, and the world hums with life. Ibises stalk through the shallows. Oxen grunt as their yoke-tube plows, and women sing as they carry baskets of reeds. The fields stretch endlessly, divided by narrow dikes that glisten with water. You feel a strange pride swelling in your chest. This land, harsh and eternal, feeds everyone from farmer to pharaoh. Oddly enough, scholars still debate how much freedom farmers really had in ancient Egypt. Were you servants bound to your lord's land, or free men paying tax to the crown? The truth, you think, lies somewhere in between. You own little, but your hands make everything grow. And that, in its own quiet way, feels like power. You tighten the cloth around your head, shielding yourself from the bright sun, and start walking toward the fields. Dust rises behind your sandals, and the faint sound of temple bells drifts over the water. The day has begun, and the gods, as always, are watching. By midday, the heat has turned the air into something you can almost see shimmering. Heavy, alive, you wipe sweat from your brow with the back of your arm, leaving a dark streak of soil behind. The Nile glitters in the distance like a strip of polished bronze, and the scent of wet mud and growing things clings to everything. You plant your bare feet deep into the cool muck and pull the wooden plow forward beside your ox. Its massive shoulders ripple as it trudges, each step sinking and squelching in the waterlogged earth. You guide it carefully, turning the soft ground into neat, shallow furrows where the seeds will rest. The rhythm is slow and hypnotic pull. Pat, breathe, repeat. The work is endless but familiar, comforting. Even, you hum softly half a prayer, half a song, asking happy, God of the flood, to bless this year's waters. Without him, no crops would rise, no bread would bake, no one would live around you. Other farmers sing too, their voices carrying across the fields in a low, rolling harmony that feels as old as the river itself. You pause to rest and sip from a clay jar of beer, thick, yeasty, almost sour, but safer than water. It sticks to your throat, and you cough lightly. Still, it cools your body from within. And you take another swig. A friend nearby laughs. Careful or you'll nap in the furrows again. You grin and throw a lump of mud in his direction. He ducks, still chuckling. A dragonfly hovers near your face, its wings flashing in the light. And for a moment, you forget the heat. Life thrives everywhere in the smallest puddle, in every buzzing corner of the reeds. You think about how fragile this balance is. Too little rain, and you starve. Too much, and the river takes you home. Nature doesn't bargain in Egypt. It commands every few hours. You switch tasks, first plowing, then scattering seeds from a reed basket slung over your shoulder. You toss them wide and evenly, letting the wind do its share of the work. A small boy, maybe 12, runs behind you with a flock of ducks, driving them across the wet field. Their feet press the seeds gently into the mud. It's a clever trick that's worked for centuries, though scholars still argue whether the ducks really made much difference. You smile. They do in your eyes. By the time the sun begins to drop, your shoulders burn, your hands ache, and your feet are numb from the wet ground. But you look at the neat, glistening rows behind you, your day's labor carved into the land, and you feel something deep in your chest. Satisfaction, perhaps, or maybe gratitude that another season has begun. As you walk home, the light softens. The air smells of reeds and smoke, and the calls of herons echo faintly over the fields. The day has stripped you of energy, but filled you with purpose. You know you'll wake tomorrow and do it all again. Because in Egypt, the rhythm of life isn't measured in hours, it's measured in floods. Night falls slowly in Egypt. The horizon fades from gold to indigo, and the last light of Ra, the sun god, slides behind the palms. The air cools, bringing a sigh of relief after the long day. You walk back through the dusty path towards your village, the wooden yoke crusting across your shoulders, tools dangling from it like trophies of endurance. As you approach home, the sounds of life rise up around you, the rhythmic thud of grain being ground by hand, the soft bleating of goats, the distant laughter of children. Smoke curls into the twilight from clay hearths, carrying with it the smell of lentil stew and roasted fish. The scent alone makes your stomach growl. Your wife greets you at the doorway of your mud brick house. Her hands are flour-dusted, her hair tied neatly behind her head. "You worked too long," she says, smiling as she takes the yoke from your shoulders. You shrug, pretending it was nothing. Inside, your youngest son runs to your legs and clings to them, his small hands leaving prints of clay and joy. Dinner is simple but satisfying. You sit cross-legged on the mat as bowls are passed, lentils thickened with garlic, bread baked flat on the walls of the oven, and a cup of beer that tastes faintly of smoke. You eat in silence for a moment, listening to the crackle of the fire and the faint rush of wind through the reeds outside. Then the stories begin, as they always do. Your father, sitting near the doorway, starts to speak in his gravelly voice. He tells of the year the Nile rose higher than any man had ever seen. The gods were testing us, he says, eyes gleaming in the firelight. But we endured, because we learned to bend like the papyrus. The children lean closer, their eyes wide. You've heard the story 100 times. But you never interrupt. It's not just a tale, it's a memory carried through generations. A reminder of who you are. After dinner, You step outside. The night is still, save for the croak of frogs and the distant call of a night heron. Above you, the stars blaze in impossible clarity. The Milky Way stretches like spilled milk across the heavens. The ancient Egyptians call it the winding waterway, believing it mirrors the Nile itself in the afterlife. You find that comforting. Maybe when you die, your soul will sail that sky river too. Your neighbor joins you briefly, a torch in his hand. Tomorrow, he says, the priest will bless the waters. You'll come? You nod. Of course. When you finally lie down to sleep on your reed mat, the hum of insects becomes a lullaby. The smell of smoke, grain, and river water clings to your skin. You close your eyes, and the world feels vast yet familiar, like the eternal flow of the Nile itself. Tomorrow will bring the same work, the same sun, the same rhythm, but you wouldn't trade it for anything. For in this simple, sacred pattern, life and eternity flow together as one. The next dawn greets you with a pale shimmer spreading across the fields, a soft mist curling above the irrigation canals. You blink sleep from your eyes and stretch your arms toward the Nile's distant glimmer, that same river your ancestors worshipped as a god. The air smells faintly of wet earth and lotus flowers, and you can hear the early chatter of ibises waiting by the shore. Today is special. It's the day the priests walk from the Temple of Happy to bless the riverbanks, an old tradition meant to keep the Nile generous and calm. You wipe your face with cool water from a clay jug and join the slow procession of farmers and villagers. Everyone moves quietly, reverently, as if the world has paused for this single ritual. Up ahead, the priests appear in linen robes, so white they almost glow in the sunrise. One carries a small bronze bowl filled with incense. Another holds a carved image of the Nile god, painted bright blue and gold. You stand a few paces away, feeling the faint heat of the rising sun on your back as the first thin trails of smoke drift over the water. The chanting begins low, rhythmic, hypnotic. You don't know the words. Not really, but the sound itself feels ancient, like it was born from the river's own pulse. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing it in. Somewhere behind you, a child sneezes, someone laughs softly. Even the priests smile. Life doesn't stop being human just because the gods are watching. As they pour sacred water from golden pitchers back into the Nile, you can't help but think how strange and perfect it is, returning water to water, as if thanking the river for existing at all. Scholars still argue whether these ceremonies were purely symbolic or had deeper ties to the agricultural calendar. But for you, standing barefoot in the mud, it doesn't really matter. What matters is the feeling, the deep, humming peace that comes when you realize everything you depend on, from your crops to your family's bread, flows from this single shimmering ribbon of life. You glance at your neighbor, who nods slowly, and the two of you exchange a look that says, without words, let's hope the river stays kind this year. By the time the priests finish, the sun has fully risen, gilding the world in warm gold. You return to your field, stepping carefully through the wet grass, already planning the day's work. The birds are singing again, the air is alive, and you feel the faintest spark of gratitude, small but bright, like a hidden ember in the heart of the morning. By midday, the heat presses down on your shoulders like a thick, invisible blanket. The Nile's shimmer turns harsh and dazzling, and even the cicadas seem to buzz slower under the weight of the sun. You wipe your brow with the corner of your tunic, feeling grains of dust cling to your damp skin. Lunch isn't much: a simple barley loaf, a few onions, and a small clake up of beer. Not the fancy, filtered kind the nobles drink, but the thick, yeasty brew that tastes faintly of earth and sweetness. You sit beneath a patch of shade cast by a date palm and watch the world move in slow motion, a fisherman casting his net, a pair of oxen trudging lazily through a nearby field, the ripples of the river dancing like melted glass. You tear into your bread, and as you chew, your mind drifts. You think about how much the land gives, but only if you listen. Each patch of soil has its own personality, its own moods. You've learned to read the color of the mud, the tilt of the reeds, even the song of the wind. If the papyrus rustles too sharply, it might mean a dry spell. If frogs sing too loudly at night, it means the floodwaters could rise higher than usual. Your father taught you all this when you were a child. His hands rough and brown, his laugh deep like the Nile's current. He used to say, "The river doesn't belong to us, we belong to it." You smile faintly at the memory. Scholars still debate whether such sayings were rooted in early Egyptian religion or simple observation. But you know better, wisdom isn't something carved in stone. It's passed through muddy hands and shared glances. You finish your food and watch a beetle roll a tiny ball of dung across the sand, patient, determined, unstoppable. The creature reminds you of Khepri, the scarab-headed god said to push the sun across the sky every day. There's something comforting about that image that even gods have chores. The afternoon stretches onward. You check your irrigation ditches, adjusting a few small channels with a wooden spade so the water flows evenly between the crops. The mud squelches under your feet, cool against the heat. Each small task feels rhythmic, almost meditative. Scoop, pat, redirect, repeat. And somewhere deep inside, under the hum of insects and the slow churn of the river, you feel a quiet harmony, a strange peace that comes from knowing your place in the pattern. You are small, yes, but necessary. The river, the soil, the sun, and you all parts of the same patient, eternal cycle. You stretch once more, letting your eyes rest on the horizon where golden wheat meets blue sky. A falcon circles overhead, its shadow briefly passing over your hands. The gods are watching, perhaps. Or maybe it's just the wind. Either way, you keep working. The day isn't done yet. By late afternoon, the Nile gleams bronze, and the air feels heavy as if the entire world is holding its breath before dusk. You stand in the field, shoulders aching, and watch the sun sink slowly toward the western horizon. Every stalk of wheat seems to glow from within, as though Ra himself has spilled a little of his light over the land before he descends into the underworld. You rinse your hands in a small irrigation channel. The cool water slips over your fingers, carrying away dust, sweat, and the faint stickiness of sap. A small boy runs past, laughing, with a reed whistle clutched in his hand. He's your neighbor's son, barely 7, and he waves before dashing off toward the palm grove. His laughter echoes faintly, a sound that feels older than the pyramids themselves. You gather your tools, the wooden hoe, the small sickle, a clay jar half filled with water. Each one bears the marks of used scratches, dense patches where your grip has worn the smoothness away. These are your companions, more loyal than most people. Scholars still argue whether Egyptian farmers were truly poor or just humble workers in a deeply spiritual society. But if wealth means harmony with your world, you're rich beyond measure. The sky darkens gradually, turning shades of pink and amber before slipping into violet. You begin your walk home, barefoot along the narrow paths between fields. Every few steps you hear the distant bray of donkeys or the splash of someone washing clothes near the riverbank. The smell of cooking drifts on the air, lentil stew, roasted fish, maybe even honey cakes, if the gods have been kind. As you near your home, you pass the small shrine by the edge of the fields. A faded carving of Osiris stands there, the paint long worn away by dust and time. You pause, pressing your palm gently to the stone. It's not so much prayer as habit, a quiet acknowledgement that life depends on things far beyond your control. Inside your modest mud brick house, the air is cooler. Your wife hums softly as she stirs a pot over the hearth, hurl in and rest, catching the flicker of firelight. Your children sit nearby, weaving small mats from papyrus reeds. You lower yourself beside them, the day's exhaustion pooling in your bones but softened by the warmth of the room. Dinner is simple but comforting. You eat slowly, listening to your wife's stories, gossip about neighbors, small complaints about a stubborn girl, laughter over a merchant's outrageous prices. You find yourself smiling more than speaking. Afterward, you step outside for a moment. The stars above shimmer like tiny fragments of shell gold scattered across a deep indigo sky. The Milky Way cuts across the heavens like the ghost of the Nile itself, a mirror of the life flowing below. Somewhere a dog barks. Somewhere else a flute plays a lazy, drifting tune. You breathe in deeply. The air smells of damp soil, smoke and river reeds. The same air your ancestors breathed. The same one your children will. Time feels slow, not a line, but a circle that keeps folding in on itself endlessly. And as you stand there beneath the starlit sky, you realize something simple yet profound. Your day, so ordinary and small, is the very rhythm that keeps Egypt alive. Night deepens, and the world softens around you. Crickets chirp in the distance, mingling with the occasional splash of the Nile as a fish breaks the surface. The air is cooler now, carrying the scent of damp reeds and warm clay. You take a slow breath, feeling the lingering heat of the day leaving your skin. Replaced by a gentle shiver of evening calm, your family gathers near the hearth. The fire crackles, sending small sparks into the air that vanish before they can land. Your youngest child curls beside your knees, tugging your tunic gently, eyes wide with curiosity. "Tell me again about the great flood," he whispers. You chuckle softly, ruffling his hair. The story is old, repeated countless times, but it never loses its weight or wonder. As you speak, you describe the floodwaters that occasionally surge from the Nile, reshaping the land and offering both threat and blessing. Scholars still debate the exact patterns of these floods, but you know the rhythm intuitively: when to plant, when to harvest, when to pray. You gesture toward the window, where moonlight falls across your clay floor, illuminating tiny scratches and handprints left by generations. Each mark is a memory, a trace of life pressed into the earth like the soft footprints along the riverbank. Outside, a faint wind rustles the date palms. Somewhere far away, a distant drum echoes from a temple ceremony. You listen for a moment, letting the sound blend with the warmth of the hearth and the gentle murmurs of your children. Even in the smallest gestures, a child's yawn, a pot simmering quietly, the sway of reeds, you sense the continuity of life. Your wife moves about the room, gathering scraps and setting bowls aside. She hums a tune you don't recognize, but the rhythm is comforting, familiar. You notice the subtle detail, the thin gold thread sewn into her hair, a remnant of her mother's handiwork. It catches the firelight and glimmers faintly, like a star fallen into the mundane world. When the meal concludes, the family drifts towards sleep. You step outside once more, barefoot on the cool earth. The river mirrors the night sky, a dark, flowing mirror dotted with silver from the moon. You imagine this journey through the underworld, his light fighting shadows, and you feel a curious kinship. Your own daily toil mirrors that same struggle, small and steady against the vast, unknowable forces of life. The night deepens further, the cicadas singing their quiet symphony. You close your eyes for a brief moment, savoring the mingling scents, the sounds and the weight of the day behind you. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again. The river will flow, and you will rise with it, a part of the eternal rhythm of this ancient land. The Verdant light slips over the horizon, painting the fields in soft shades of rose and lavender. You wake slowly, muscles stiff from yesterday's labor, and step outside to greet the chill morning air. Mist curls above the canals, and the distant call of a heron echoes like a soft trumpet across the still water. Each breath you take carries the faint scent of wet mud, ripening crops, and the ever-present river. You begin your day, as you always do, checking the irrigation ditches first. Water flows sluggishly in some channels and briskly in others. You kneel beside the earth, adjusting small wooden sluices with careful precision. Scholars still debate whether ancient Egyptian farmers had standardized irrigation schedules or relied solely on observational skill. But you know the answer in your bones. The river speaks to those who listen. Children scurry past, carrying reeds and small baskets. They giggle as they try to balance tiny clay pots atop their heads, bumping into one another in the morning haze. You smile, shaking your head at their clumsiness, but secretly admire their energy and agility. One day, these little hands will handle the tools you now carry, guiding water and shaping fields with the same instinctive knowledge. The village elders gather near the communal granary. You hear murmurs about the harvest, debates over seed distribution, and quiet prayers for a bountiful season. One elder leans on his staff, pointing toward the distant horizon where dark clouds gather. Rain might come early this year, he predicts. You nod subtly, acknowledging the possibility, and consider how it might change today's work. You spend the morning in the fields, the sun climbing higher, warming your back. Sweat drips into your eyes, stinging slightly, but the effort is familiar, almost comforting. Each row of wheat is a line of labor, a testament to the patience and persistence required to survive and thrive in this land. Occasionally, you pause to admire the small miracles: a single scarlet poppy blooming, a gold stalks, the delicate curve of a stalk bending under the weight of grain, the shimmer of sunlight on a tiny pool of water in the canal. By mid-morning, you gather the workers for communal tasks: repairing a broken irrigation wheel, clearing debris from the path, or reinforcing mud walls against the next flood. There is a rhythm to it all, a soft hum that ties you to your neighbors and ancestors alike. Even in toil, there is satisfaction in knowing that your hands, calloused and worn, are shaping life itself. As you pause beneath the shade of a lone date palm, the wind brushes across your face, carrying a hint of the river's eternal promise. You close your eyes briefly, letting the soft whisper of nature wash over you. Each moment, mundane as it seems, is a thread in the endless tapestry of life, binding past, present, and future in quiet, steadfast continuity. The sun climbs higher, casting sharper shadows across the golden fields. Your back aches, and your palms sting from gripping tools. But there's a rhythm to your work that eases the pain. You swing the hoe, turn the soil, and follow the flow of irrigation channels as if guided by some invisible hand. Around you, the village hums quietly. Oxen plod, women chatter, children's laughter floats on the warm air. A merchant's cart rattles along the dirt path leading to the river. He carries woven mats, clay pots, and a few rare spices, drawing curious glances from villagers. You watch him carefully, knowing that a single bag of lentils or a pinch of saffron can change a week's meals, or even spark gossip over who received what. Scholars still argue whether trade networks extended further in the Nile Valley in your time. But you've learned that even small exchanges can ripple across the village like soft waves on the river. You pause to drink from a clay jug. The water is cool and slightly gritty, but refreshing. You notice a dragonfly hovering near the canal, its wings shimmering with iridescence. Small wonders like this creature's flitting, flowers blooming, fish darting beneath the water keep you attentive, remind you that life persists even amid toil. The midday sun presses down now, turning the air thick and warm. You wipe your forehead with a linen cloth, feeling the sweat soak through. You take a moment to glance at the horizon, and the Nile twists like a silver ribbon, catching sunlight in dazzling flashes. Nearby, farmers bend over their own plots, synchronized in labor and unspoken understanding. The same sun, the same soil, the same rhythm, each of you part of an unbroken chain stretching back through centuries. Lunch is simple. You eat bread, lentils, and a few dates, washed down with more of the thick, earthy beer. It sustains you but does not excite the palate. And that is enough. You sit beneath the shade of a palm, listening to distant children playing with sticks and mud. The faint calls of farmers coordinating in fields beyond sight. Life is ordinary perhaps, but in its ordinariness lies its quiet poetry. As afternoon approaches, you check the crops once more. A few stray weeds threaten the younger shoots, and you pull them gently, careful not to disturb the delicate growth. The breeze carries scents of baked clay, river reeds, and the faint sweetness of wild herbs. A bird lands nearby, surveying you curiously before flitting off again. By late afternoon, shadows lengthen and the heat softens. You lean on your hoe, catching your breath, and watch the river's glimmer deepen under the sun's final rays. There's satisfaction here, subtle and enduring, a day lit in harmony with earth and water. A life tethered to something far older than yourself. The golden afternoon light shifts toward amber, softening edges and turning the fields into a sea of warm hues. You pause to let the cool wind kiss your sweat-damped skin, feeling the day's labor settle into your muscles like a familiar weight. The river flows steadily, carrying reflections of sky and reeds in a shimmering dance that has repeated for centuries. You begin tending the younger crops now, gently loosening soil around fragile roots to ensure they will thrive. Each touch is careful, deliberate. Scholars still debate whether early Egyptians used formal planning calendars or relied entirely on intuition. But your hands know what the eye alone cannot see: the soil's subtle tilt, the moisture hidden beneath its surface. Nearby, a pair of geese waddles through the mud, squawking in protest at your approach. You laugh quietly, careful not to startle them too much, and move on. The village children chase each other around a small granary, their barefoot feet tracing tiny clouds of dust that smell faintly of straw and baked turf. Their laughter threads through the air like music, softening the sun's heat with pure, simple joy. You glance at your own home in the distance, smoke curling from the hearth, a tiny reminder that your day will end with warmth and food. For now, though, your focus is on the crops. You straighten, taking in the full expanse of the wheat fields. Each stalk is a testament to patience, endurance, and quiet diligence. The river's water lapping against the banks, the rhythm of the wind, the occasional chirp of a bird, all seem like small affirmations that life continues, despite hardship and uncertainty. A sudden breeze carries the faint aroma of wildflowers from a nearby plot. You inhale, savoring the contrast between the fragrant petals and the earthy scent of tilled soil. The moment is fleeting, yet you store it in your memory like treasure, a reminder that beauty often hides in ordinary things. You check the irrigation channels once more, adjusting a wooden sluice to ensure the water reaches every furrow evenly. Your hands are streaked with mud, your tunic damp with sweat, but there's a sense of calm satisfaction in seeing the water flow exactly where it should. You glance at the horizon, where the sun hangs low, casting long shadows that stretch like fingers across the wind. As the day slips toward evening, you allow yourself a moment of reflection. The labor is tiring, the sun relentless, but the harmony of your work with the rhythms of the land earns a quiet pride. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again. The river will flow, and the cycle of life continues steady, enduring and beautifully ordinary. Evening descends slowly, painting the sky in hues of deep orange and violet. The river now mirrors the changing colors, creating a soft, liquid canvas that shimmers beneath the last rays of sunlight. You pause in the field, wiping your brow and letting the gentle breeze carry away the day's heat. Your muscles ache pleasantly, reminders of a day lived in rhythm with the land. Children gather near the edge of the fields, their small hands clutching reeds and sticks as makeshift toys. They laugh and chase one another, their joyous noise drifting across the quiet farmland. You can't help but smile, remembering your own youth spent in similar games. Scholars still argue whether communal play in ancient villages served purely social purposes or also subtly trained children for adult responsibilities. But watching them now, you sense both truth and delight. Your wife emerges from the house, carrying a small jug of water and a wooden bowl with the evening meal. She greets you with a tired but warm smile, the glow of the setting sun catching her hair. You exchange a few words, brief yet comforting, as the sounds of the river and evening creatures fill the space between. Dinner is humble bread, lentils, and perhaps a few roasted vegetables, but the flavor is enhanced by the calm satisfaction of a day well spent. After the meal, you sit outside for a moment. The air cools gently, carrying the faint scent of the river, damp earth and wild flowers. A heron glides silently over the water, wings outstretched, casting a fleeting shadow across the fields. You watch, noting how effortlessly it moves, and for a moment envy the bird's grace. Life, you realize, is not just survival but also these quiet, fleeting glimpses of beauty. Torches are lit along the pathways, casting flickering shadows that dance across mud brick walls. Villagers gather in small clusters, exchanging stories, planning for tomorrow, and sharing the warmth of companionship. You listen to snippets, a dispute over goats, laughter at a child's mischief, the soft lament of someone missing a relative, all ordinary, yet profoundly human. As darkness deepens, you retreat to the edge of the river, kneeling to dip your hands into the cool water. The sensation is refreshing, grounding. You notice the reflection of stars beginning to twinkle above, mirrored perfectly in the gentle ripples. The cycle of day into night feels sacred, familiar, eternal. Finally, you stand and glance back at your home. Smoke rises from the hearth, children stir softly inside, and your wife ends the final tasks before sleep. You inhale the night air deeply, savoring the stillness, knowing that tomorrow the cycle will begin anew, a rhythm as old as the land itself. The village now lies in almost complete silence, broken only by the soft whispers of the river and the occasional rustle of reeds swaying in the night breeze. You sit quietly by the hearth, your hands warmed by the gentle flames, feeling the exhaustion of the day seep into your bones. Every muscle aches pleasantly, a reminder of hours spent shaping the earth and sustaining life. You reflect on the day's routine, the simple yet profound rhythm that binds you to the land and to those around you. Children ran through the fields, farmers tended their crops, elders offered guidance, and the river carried life forward with patient persistence. Scholars still argue whether the day-to-day labor of ancient Egyptians was dictated by necessity alone, or also infused with a subtle, almost spiritual understanding of the world. But you know that every action, small or large, resonates with meaning. Looking outside, the moon casts silver paths across the water, each ripple reflecting the quiet beauty of night. A solitary heron glides silently above, wings outstretched, while fireflies blink softly in the distance, adding tiny specks of magic to the darkness. The smell of damp earth mingles with the faint aroma of bread and lentils cooling on a windowsill, grounding you in the intimate comforts of home. You rise slowly and walk to the edge of the river, feeling the cool mud beneath your bare feet. Dipping your hands into the gentle current, you marvel at how it carries both the day's toil and the night's calm. Life here is a cycle, repeating endlessly. Yet each day brings subtle shifts, a stronger stalk of wheat, a new blossom, a child learning a new skill, a conversation that lingers in memory. Returning home, you notice the faint glow of lanterns in nearby huts, each telling the story of families winding down after a day of effort and care. You settle beside your family, exchanging quiet words and soft laughter, finding comfort in shared moments of ordinary life. Outside, the village hum fades further, and the sounds of night become a lullaby, the gentle lap of water, the whispering breeze, the distant call of nocturnal creatures. As you prepare to rest, you feel the rhythm of the land, the river, and the village synchronize with your own heartbeat. The day is done, yet life continues. Quietly, steadily, beautifully. You close your eyes, letting the soft hum of night, the warmth of home, and the gentle reflection on life's small details carry you into deep, serene sleep. The village now lies in almost complete silence, broken only by the soft whispers of the river and the occasional rustle of reeds swaying in the night breeze. You sit quietly by the hearth, your hands warmed by the gentle flames, feeling the exhaustion of the day seep into your bones. Every muscle aches pleasantly, a reminder of hours spent shaping the earth and sustaining life. You reflect on the day's routine, the simple yet profound rhythm that binds you to the land and to those around you. Children ran through the fields. Farmers tended their crops, elders offered guidance, and the river carried life forward with patient persistence. Scholars still argue whether the day-to-day labor of ancient Egyptians was dictated by necessity alone or also infused with a subtle, almost spiritual understanding of the world. But you know that every action, small or large, resonates with meaning. Looking outside, the moon cast silver paths across the water, each ripple reflecting the quiet beauty of night. A solitary heron glides silently above, wings outstretched, while fireflies blink softly in the distance, adding tiny specks of magic to the darkness. The smell of damp earth mingles with the faint aroma of bread and lentils cooling on a windowsill, grounding you in the intimate comforts of home. You rise slowly and walk to the edge of the river, feeling the cool mud beneath your bare feet. Dipping your hands into the gentle current, you marvel at how it carries both the day's toil and the night's calm. Life here is a cycle, repeating endlessly. Yet each day brings subtle shifts, a stronger stalk of wheat, a new blossom, a child learning a new skill, a conversation that lingers in memory. Returning home, you notice the faint glow of lanterns in nearby huts, each telling the story of families winding down after a day of effort and care. You settle beside your family, exchanging quiet words and soft laughter, finding comfort in shared moments of ordinary life. Outside, the village hum fades further, and the sounds of night become a lullaby, the gentle lap of water, the whispering breeze, the distant call of nocturnal creatures. As you prepare to rest, you feel the rhythm of the land, the river, and the village synchronize with your own heartbeat. The day is done, yet life continues. Quietly, steadily, beautifully. You close your eyes, letting the soft hum of night, the warmth of home, and the gentle reflection on life's small details carry you into deep, serene sleep. The village now lies in almost complete silence, broken only by the soft whispers of the river and the occasional rustle of reeds swaying in the night breeze. You sit quietly by the hearth, your hands warmed by the gentle flames, feeling the exhaustion of the day seep into your bones. Every muscle aches pleasantly, a reminder of hours spent shaping the earth and sustaining life. You reflect on the day's routine, the simple yet profound rhythm that binds you to the land and to those around you. Children ran through the fields. Farmers tended their crops, elders offered guidance, and the river carried life forward with patient persistence. Scholars still argue whether the day-to-day labor of ancient Egyptians was dictated by necessity alone or also infused with a subtle, almost spiritual understanding of the world. But you know that every action, small or large, resonates with meaning. Looking outside, the moon cast silver paths across the water, each ripple reflecting the quiet beauty of night. A solitary heron glides silently above, wings outstretched, while fireflies blink softly in the distance, adding tiny specks of magic to the darkness. The smell of damp earth mingles with the faint aroma of bread and lentils cooling on a windowsill, grounding you in the intimate comforts of home. You rise slowly and walk to the edge of the river, feeling the cool mud beneath your bare feet. Dipping your hands into the gentle current, you marvel at how it carries both the day's toil and the night's calm. Life here is a cycle, repeating endlessly. Yet each day brings subtle shifts, a stronger stalk of wheat, a new blossom, a child learning a new skill, a conversation that lingers in memory. Returning home, you notice the faint glow of lanterns in nearby huts, each telling the story of families winding down after a day of effort and care. You settle beside your family, exchanging quiet words and soft laughter, finding comfort in shared moments of ordinary life. Outside, the village hum fades further, and the sounds of night become a lullaby, the gentle lap of water, the whispering breeze, the distant call of nocturnal creatures. As you prepare to rest, you feel the rhythm of the land, the river, and the village synchronize with your own heartbeat. The day is done, yet life continues. Quietly, steadily, beautifully. You close your eyes, letting the soft hum of night, the warmth of home, and the gentle reflection on life's small details carry you into deep, serene sleep. Now, let your breathing slow, matching the gentle pulse of the river under the moonlight. Imagine the soft glow of lanterns flickering through mud brick walls, casting delicate shadows that dance quietly across the village streets. Every sound, the distant hoot of an owl, the whispering reeds, the soft lap of water against the riverbank wraps around you like a warm, familiar blanket. You feel the day's toil easing from your muscles, the weight of labor replaced by a calm, serene awareness. The fields lie still under the night sky, golden stalks now ghostly silhouettes, and the air is the faint aroma of cool earth and resting crops. Children's laughter has faded, leaving a comforting silence punctuated by the occasional soft sigh of someone settling for sleep. Trace the horizon in your mind, where the silver river bends and glows beneath the moon. The stars sprinkle the sky, tiny pinpricks of eternity watching over the land. Imagine yourself walking barefoot along the soft, cool mud, feeling the earth support each step, connecting you to centuries of those who have walked these same fields, felt this same river, and lived these gentle rhythms of life. Let the warmth of your hearth, the soft murmurs of your family, and the comforting cadence of night lull you further. Each breath carries you deeper into relaxation. Let your thoughts float away like leaves drifting on the river light. Unburdened, free. Sleep now, knowing the cycle continues peacefully outside the river flows. The trees sway, and the village rests under the attentive gaze of the stars. You are part of this rhythm, connected to a long, enduring lineage of life, work, and quiet wonder. Close your eyes fully. Let the soft night embrace you, and drift into a serene, undisturbed sleep. Sweet dreams.